Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing an ANNIHIATION deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck is an extremely powerful link-based deck that focuses around summoning out one of the only Link 6 monsters ever created, the Arrival Cyverse ANNIHIATION, which is such a powerful card. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of our notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like in your name description every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month you're a patron. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of a Chi-Chi. A Chi-Chi is definitely a 3-of in the build, and one of the most powerful normal summons in the entire deck is if this card is normal or special summon, you can add a level 4 or lower ANNIHIATION monster from your deck to your hand, except another copy of a Chi-Chi, which is a crazy powerful effect to be able to add any of your ANNIHIATION monsters that you need directly from your deck to your hand off this card's ability, making this card pretty much a 1-card combo. We then play 3 copies of Picari. Picari is definitely a 3-of in the build as well, because if this card is normal or special summon, you can add 1 Ice Spell or Trap from your deck to your hand, which is a great effect to be able to search out any of the cards you need with this card's ability. We then play a single copy of Dojo. Dojo is really good as a 1-of in the deck, but you really only need a single copy of this card. And if this card is normal or special summon, you can target an ANNIHIATION monster in the graveyard and add it to your hand, but it's a really cool effect to be able to use with this card. And if this card is sent to the graveyard as a material for the link summon of a Cyverse monster, you can target an Ice Spell or Trap in your graveyard and add it to your hand, which is great to be able to recycle your cards with this card's ability. We then play a single copy of Bururu. Bururu is really good in this deck as a 1-of, because if this card is normal or special summon, you get to send an ANNIHIATION monster from your deck to the graveyard, making this card a Foolish Burial. It also has the ability, if this card is sent to the grave as a material for a synchro summon of a Cyverse monster, you can target 1 monster in your graveyard that was used for this synchro material except Bururu, meaning the other material, and special summon that monster to your side of the field, which is great to be able to just instantly get one of your monsters back onto your side of the field so you can link climb into other plays. We then play a single copy of Hayari. Hayari is really good just as an extender in the deck, so if you control an ANNIHIATION monster, you can special summon this card from your hand, which is the main effect we're going to be using on this card. We then play a single copy of Danmari. Danmari is really good in this deck, and I really like this card, is when an attack is declared involving your ANNIHIATION monster, then you can special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, negate that attack, which is great to give you some protection for your copy of the Arrival, which is just so cool for this card to be able to protect that card, because the only way your opponent's usually going to get through it is through attacking through it, and this card gives you protection for that. And while you control a Link 6 monster quick effect, you can manage this card from your field or your graveyard and then target a face-up card your opponent controls and negate its effects until the end of this turn, which is great to have this card as a negate as well. We then play a single copy of the ANNIHIATION Shield. This card is really good as an extender because it has the ability that you can target a Cyverse effect monster you control, negate its effects, and if you do, special summon this card, making this card just a really good extender in the deck. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is definitely a 3-of in the deck, basically just to stop your opponent from touching the deck. We then play 3 copies of Effect Veiler. Effect Veiler is also really good in this build as a 3-of, just to basically stop your opponent's monster effects. We then play 3 copies of Droll and Lockbird. Droll and Lockbird is really good because it prevents your opponent from searching for the rest of the turn, which is really good. And then finally we play a single copy of Nibiru. Nibiru is just really good in this deck as a 1-of as a cross-out designator target, because we don't want to get Nibiru in this deck, so we have cross-out designator in the deck to make sure we don't get Nibiru with the 1 copy of Nibiru in the build. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is really good as a 1-of in the build, just to make sure we're not going to get hand trapped or going in for all of our plays. We then play 2 copies of Triple Tactics Talent. This card is great as a 2-of in the build because it either lets us draw 2 cards, take control of an opponent's monster until the end phase, or look at our opponent's hand and pick a card from it and shuffle it back in the deck, dealing with hand traps our opponent might have in the hand if they do hand trap us, because you can activate this card if your opponent has activated a monster effect during your main phase, which is a really cool ability. We then play a single copy of Idol Reborn. Idol Reborn is great in the deck because this card is a Monster Reborn for your Add-Ignister cards. We then play a single copy of Fighting Spirit. Fighting Spirit is really cool as a one-of as well because this card lets you target an Add-Ignister monster in your graveyard and special summon it, basically being an additional copy of Monster Reborn in the build. I like playing these cards at 1 each because they're really good in the deck to be able to just activate and use these Monster Reborns, but they are once per turn each, which is why I play 1 copy each. We then play 2 copies of Ignister Island. Ignister Island is one of the most important cards in the entire deck, but you only need 2 copies of this card in the build because our Link 1 can search this card. And if you control no monsters in your main monster zone, then you can special summon a level 4 or lower Add-Ignister monster from your hand. But for the rest of the turn, you cannot special summon monsters with the same original attribute by the effect of this card. Also, you cannot special summon monsters except for Cyverse monsters, even if this card leaves the field. And if this card is in the graveyard, then you can banish an Add-Ignister monster in your graveyard and set this card back to your side of the field, which is a great ability just to be able to recycle this card. But I love this card in the deck because you really want to be able to summon out your copy of Chi-Chi, search Bakari, and then link it away for your copy of your Link 1, searching out this card, and then you have full combo, which is amazing. We then play 3 copies of I Met You. This card is really good in the deck as a 3-of. I Met You is just so good in this deck because this card lets you reveal a Cyverse monster with 2300 attack in your hand or extra deck, and if you do, add an Add-Ignister monster with the same attribute from your deck to your hand, which is great to be able to just use this card basically as the Rhoda for the deck. And during the end phase of this turn, take 2300 points of damage if you do not special summon the revealed monster or a monster with the same name after you resolved this effect, which is a really cool effect to be able to do, but you're always usually gonna summon out what you reveal with this card. But this card is amazing as a 3-of in the build just to use as a Rhoda for the deck. We then play 3 copies of Signet Mining. Signet Mining is definitely a 3-of in the deck as well because this card just helps you search out your cards from your deck and lets you send a card from your hand to the graveyard to be able to add a level 4 or lower Cyverse monster from your deck to your hand, which is why we don't play a lot of monsters in the main deck outside of the hand traps. It's because we basically are playing so many different Rhodas in the deck between 3 copies of our Signet Mining and 3 copies of I Met You, which is just so important to be able to do in this deck. And I love that about this build, that you can just basically have 6 Rhodas in the deck between I Meet You and your copies of Signet Mining. We then play 3 copies of Crossout Designator. Crossout Designator is great as a 3-of in the deck to be able to use this card to basically stop your opponent from hand trapping you with cards like Nibiru, Droll Knockbird, Effect Veiler, Ash Blossom, or even Infinite Impermanence. This card is just so important in the deck to be able to use to make sure that your plays are going to go through. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, guys, we're just going to be playing 3, and that's going to be 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Impermanence is definitely a 3-of in the build to use with Crossout Designator, but also to stop your opponent's monster effects and lock down entire columns of spells and traps if you do set this card out to your side of the field, which is really nice to be able to do. And this card is just amazing in the deck to be able to use against your opponent. And I love this card as a 3-of to basically use with all the other hand traps we're playing this build. And that's what's really cool about Add-Ignisters, is you have so much room in this deck to be able to use hand traps, which is so cool. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, guys, we're going to start off with a single copy of the Arrival Cyverse Add-Ignister. This card is our main boss monster that we're summoning out all the time in this deck, and this card can come out absolutely massive because this card has the ability, the original attack of this card becomes 1,000 times the number of link materials used for this card's link summon, and it's unaffected by other card effects. And once per turn, you can target one other monster on the field, destroy it, and if you do, special summon 1 Add-Ignister token to your side of the field that's a Cyverse Dark, level 1, 0 attack and 0 defense to your zone this card points to, which is a great effect to be able to use with this card to basically just pop cards on the field. And it's a Towers monster that's just unaffected by everything that can come out absolutely massive. This card is definitely a one-of boss monster in the deck and is such a powerful card. We then play a single copy of Access Code Talker. Access Code is just really good as a one-of in the deck to be able to summon out in this build, to be able to pop multiple cards on the field, and it just comes out absolutely massive to be able to OTK your opponent. Play a single copy of Dark Templar. Dark Templar is really good to be able to extend our plays because this card has the ability, if a monster is special summoned to a zone this card points to, even during the damage step, you can special summon as many level 4 or lower Administer monsters from your graveyard as possible to zones this card points to, but their effects are negated, which is a really good effect to be able to use this card to basically just bring out a bunch of monsters to your side of the field, so you can bring out your copy of the Arrival, which is just really cool to be able to do. I love this card as a 1-of in the deck. We then play a single copy of Heat Soul. Heat Soul is basically walking Pot of Greed, and this card is amazing in the build to be able to just draw a card during our turn by paying 1,000, and then draw another card during our opponent's turn, drawing, which is just so good to be able to draw 2 cards off this card's ability. And it's really insane because if your opponent just doesn't deal with this card, you're going to draw so much advantage and draw into so many different hand traps. It's going to be insane. We then play a single copy of Transcode Talker. Transcode Talker is really good to be able to use as a walking monster reborn. Play a single copy of Update Jammer. Update Jammer is really good to be able to make on our side of the field to be able to let our copy of Access Code attack multiple times so we can go in for game. We play 2 copies of Splash Mage. Splash Mage is great in the deck as a 2-of because this card is basically walking Monster Reborn as well. I really like this card as a 2-of in the deck because it helps you extend your plays a lot. We then play a single copy of Cyverse Wick Kid. Wick Kid is really good in this deck as a 1-of because it works with our tuner monsters, which is really nice. And this card's Link Summon this Link Summon card cannot be destroyed by battle by card effects, and Cyverse monsters card point to cannot be destroyed by card effects either. And if a monster is special summoned to a zone this card points to while you control this monster, even during the damage step, you can manage a Cyverse monster from the grave to add a Cyverse tuner from your deck to your hand, which is going to be your copy of Bururu that you can search off this card's ability. We then play a single copy of Link Spider, just in case we do get into Beard, we can link away that token to give us a Cyverse monster. We then play a single copy of Linkuriboh. Linkuriboh is really good to deal with trap cards, which is really nice. We then play 2 copies of Dark Infant Administer. This card is so important for the deck. It is an amazing card because if this card is Link Summoned, then you can add 1 Ignister Island from your deck to your hand, which is really important to be able to do, just instantly get to our copy of Island. And it also has a insane ability that when a Cyverse monster with 2300 original attack activates its effect, quick effect, you can move this card in your monster zone to another zone, which is really cool, and change its attribute until the end of the turn, which is great to be able to use this card to get it out of the way of your copy of your Dark Templar, move it over a zone, and then be able to use Dark Templar to bring back 3 monsters instead of 2, and also make this card divine so you have a different attribute on your side of the field. We then play a single copy of Light Dragon. Light Dragon's really good to be able to use in the deck because it does have 2300 attack points, and it also has the ability you can detach material from this card and then destroy face-up monsters your opponent controls up to the number of Administer monsters that you control, which is great to be able to pop cards on the field. And then finally play a single copy of Wind Pegasus. Wind Pegasus is just really good in the deck because it does have 2300 attack, and during your main phase you can destroy spells and traps your opponent controls up to the number of Administer monsters you control. If another card you control is destroyed by battle by card effect while this card's on the field or in the graveyard, banish this card, and then you also have the ability to target 1 card that your opponent controls and shuffle it into the deck, which is great to just use this card as a bounce if it's in the grave. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed. This deck is super fun. If you guys have never played Administer before, you should definitely give this deck a try because it's crazy how powerful Administer actually is. Being able to combo into the copy of the Arrival is just so cool because it's just such an awesome boss monster to be able to summon out to your side of the field, and it's crazy how hard it is for your opponent to deal with a towers-like monster like Administer the Arrival. So that's going to do for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.